Wallace.
Thank you, Chris.
We love you, George.
Got the mic working, yeah? Okay. Well, I was going to say, we could reconvene in the hot tub, the number of people. It's a couple more than that, so I'm happy to be able to present here for the second time for the PoetFest at the gracious invitation of Chris Bonar. So I want to thank him for that invitation. Last year I came with David B. Axelrod, who's up in Daytona Beach. He's a poet, and he dresses in, I don't know, racing outfit, like a fireproof racing outfit. I've never seen a poet who did that before. So if he brought me down here, and we did something together last year. Same room, same space, different position. It's an honor to be asked to do the keynote presentation. Larry asked me if I had a set of notes I was going to read from. I told him, no, I just do this out of my head, I'll wing it. And I told Victoria, whatever I say here yesterday when we were talking together, I won't be able to talk about that because it'll already be covered, so I'm going to cover some new ground. I do want to talk a little bit about the concept of community, because we've heard that word thrown around a little bit. I want to talk about it in technical terms and also specific to who we are as poets. A couple of things came up this morning that I do want to touch on. The whole AI thing I think is important to say a word about, and also some of the kinds of collaborations we can do with musicians, which we heard a little bit about as well. And then I'll read some poems, which I think hopefully will illustrate the kind of work I do as a post-beat, surrealist, ecstatic journalist poet. With all of the other adjectives you might want to throw in there to qualify it and make it descriptive of who I am in very specific terms. I keep one joke in my head. The joke that I had until yesterday, and I just picked it up 2 days ago. It's on a reel on YouTube. It's a young woman. She says, "What is Beethoven doing in his grave? Decomposing." And that was my joke. I only got one brain cell for a joke, and so that's the joke I've been carrying with me. But today, I picked up and I've replaced that with a new joke, which I don't know if funny it is, but it's this one. I'm a member of the Procrastinators Club. We've never been able to pull together a meeting because we keep putting it off. And that, I'm sure you can deliver better than that, but it speaks to what we have before us, the challenge before us, the opportunity we have before us as poets, trying to meet together in some form of association and collective for common purpose of sharing and development of our skills and our qualities as writers, and to defend the word. Because community is not an automatic thing. There's something that Kurt Vonnegut called grandfalloons. It's false associations. If you ever read Kurt Vonnegut, he says it's like, oh, your name's George? My son's name is George. And now we're supposed to have a relationship that's established because of a real association. But we're all from Missouri. You're from Missouri too? Oh, okay, high five, like that. But these are false associations. They're not real. It's like going down to the beach and from here and wearing sandals, and you've got some sand in the bottom of your feet, in the bottom of your shoes. You come back, it's not a collection of shells. It's just what happened to be together in your shoe having walked down to the beach. There's a difference between people getting together and people associating. There's a difference between those two things. And it's the extent, and it's the irony, as much as the Procrastinators Club, that we are, all of us poets, independent contractors, independent agents working on our particular craft and sullen art. And in doing so, we think that it's important to get together somehow and do something in association with each other that's going to have some benefit, but really it's about how that can make me a better poet, how that can make you a better poet, how that can make you a better poet. So we're working against our own tide by coming together as poets. So the first step in understanding where we are as poets and what we can do in community is to understand that this is a collective that does not want to happen. Having understood that, it's then possible for us to sit down and say, how is it going to be something that really, we can overcome that we can, in one part of our brains, in one compartmentalized part of our brains, go, I'm about my craft and developing my craft for whatever purpose and reason, inspiration, and magic that's created, an endorphin rush that I get from doing that. By doing my craft, why am I going to get together with other people? I have to be able to answer that question to make it meaningful, to make it worth coming. And I look around the room and I see people that I've seen in New York and in California and in Louisville and up in Lowell, Massachusetts and other places like that they come together for these sorts of group activities, for these sorts of festivals of poets, a collection of poets gathered together. And it's important to ask ourselves why. If we have dinner together, if we stay in a fishing lodge in Connecticut together, and after everybody gets to do their 3 minutes of fame, and they sit down afterwards and they sit down for dinner together and have a drink or something, and then we end up talking together to 2 o'clock in the morning, find out there's some real commonality, get up in the morning and you cook eggs for me and I make toast for you. Well, we now have the potential for something beyond that. But for many, many of these things, we come in and you're staying where you're staying, you're staying where you're staying, you're staying where you're staying, and we're only going to get together in these rooms. Either you sitting there and me up here, or me up here and you down there. Or if it's an open mic situation, just the very short period of time. And how many of us have been in a poetry reading where the other people in the audience are not even looking at you like this? But they're spending their time thinking about what they are going to do when they get their moment on the microphone. Not always, and it's not, I'm not even saying that in a critical way, because it's not, it's normal. People do want to do a good job with their 3 minutes. But unless we learn to find some reason to appreciate actually listening to each other, actually supporting each other, unless we find a reason to do that, it's going to be a grandfather. It's not going to be real. So I urge you to think about this and think about the things that make it important for us to gather together and through the synergy of relationships with each other, individually, in groups in our own towns, or on the internet, or by traveling 3,000 miles to another part of the country or overseas somewhere, to make it an experience which has value, which creates something in you that you did not have before. How many times are you going to go somewhere and it's going to be, I think I did a good job there. I think that people like me. Yeah? Okay. Is that what it's really about? It can't be. It can't be. Otherwise, go live in a tower in Wales like Dylan Thomas, and scribble your notes, and scribble your poems, and you craft and lonely art, and be alone with your art. If we're going to get together, let's find a reason why it has value. And I could propose some reasons to make it have value, but that would take, it's already 4:14, and I'm not going to, spend 20 minutes talking about the ideas of community and what community can do for independent contractors. We just go to a chamber of commerce. Right? Go to Chamber of Commerce meeting. There's the butcher, there's the real estate agent, there's the insurance agent. They're in different lines of business, right? But they're coming together, and it's not just for drinks at noon. There's something that happens in that collective which makes it a real association. And it can be that for us. I ask you, as the most creative people in America, to figure that out. Even if it's just to say, well, thank God for 2 days, I'm with other creative people in America, and I'm not with all those other people that, I'm trying to avoid becoming in my quest to be what I know I must be as a creative person. In a society that does not value the creative person. We have to figure that out, each one of us, and together, to support each other. We don't have to, but the synergy which can be created is a wonderful thing. You see that happening right now. I mean, 2 years ago, Chris Boulder was not part of the NB National Beat Poetry Foundation activity. I saw him down here. I saw him up in Barkensted, Connecticut. And now he's bringing people from San Diego and from Louisville and from other parts of the world, New Jersey, and Maine, to this location. What is the benefit? Association of the local geographic community and the community of interest. A community of interest, which is a community of people that share an interest and a passion. Majestically transforming the word for personal and for social value. We're all in that business. This is the 21st century, so we can't do what Jack Kerouac and Neil Cassidy and Allen Ginsberg did and hang out together in some dive bar at the Vesuvius, and live there for 3 years. Vesuvio's, in San Francisco for 3 years. We can't all go to, we're not going to go to Paris and be part of a lost generation and go to Gertrude Stein's atelier and hang out with Paul Bowles and Juna Barnes and Ernest Hemingway and F. Scott Fitzgerald. This is not how it works. There's not that sort of live together thing that happens anymore for poets, except I don't know if it's ever going to happen again, but it's not happening now. Maybe it's happening for some 20-year-olds in Berlin or 20-year-olds in Brooklyn. But those are 20-year-old incipient artists. For us, I don't see any 20-year-olds here. Okay? For us, we do not live like that. We are not living at the precipice of adulthood. We are older, established, creative people. How do we form an association with each other? Not as people that are sharing pizza because and stealing hubcaps. Enjoy writing together. Now, that's not what we can be together. Not ready to settle down, independent, creative young Americans, that are going to defy conventions of society. That's not who we are. We may still be radical, we may still be unconventional, but we're not going to gather together and live together in Poughkeepsie. We are going to do it. So we have to find a different way in the 21st century to do that, to form that community out of association. I'm talking at 2 levels now. I'm talking the geographic community, and I'm talking about the pan-geographic community of interest. There's parallels between them. I remember 1990, 91, 92, when I first got back to America, and I was like, there's people in Woodstock that are poets. There's people in Orange County, New York, that are poets. There's people in Connecticut. The Chinese had this barefoot, ground up, doctrine they had at some point in time during Maoist China, something like that, where all innovation and all developments they don't come from the top down, from Peking, Beijing, or North down, or University of Iowa down. They come from the ground up, from the community up. Innovation and energy of what the people can do comes from the ground up. So we should be able to do that. I said 1990, when I first got back to New York. Of course, there was no internet. How do you get up with somebody in Woodstock? You can't even find it. You have to go to a library, find a phone book, look look through a phone book for Woodstock, New York, if you could find it. It took me a year and a half to put together one reading to go up to Woodstock with 2 or 3 people from Long Island. And go, here we are, come on. And I said, come on in. And we did a reading in a church. Thank you very much, and I hope you come down to see us. A year and a half later, they came down. That's how long it took to actually physically go to one of these locations and do it. Nowadays, I'm not even going to show you my calendar. It's a beautiful thing. It's a wonderful thing, but it's partly possible because of the internet. Because, I'm friends with you on Facebook. I'm friends with you now, as of today, on Facebook. We can pull things together now, very quickly. And not even that by actually physically going to locations, but Zoom. Zoom, which is like an oddity and only came about really because of COVID, has now become one of our major tools in the community of poets. I'm at the Walt Whitman Birthplace, and one of the things that 3 years ago I started this Poets Building Bridges. 3 different communities of poets in 3 different locations around the world. Meeting by Zoom for an hour and 56 minutes, and sharing poetry. Not a random sample of just people that I happen to know or people's names I happen to pull out of a hat, but Chris and his boys from San Diego, Lucilla Trapazzo and her boys from Switzerland. People from India, people from England, people from this Saturday I'm going to be doing it with 3 people from Carville, Texas. New York Live Magazine, that's Jeff Wright, and Maria Soares from Portugal, and a couple of Portuguese poets. An hour and a half, an hour 45 minutes. It's triangulating. It's doing it in a structured way. So if we just show up, do our individual thing, and we're in and out the door, and don't capitalize on the possibility to make structure out of it, then we're going to be doing very little. But if we find a way to create structure in the associations and the relationships, then we're going to be doing more than just getting our buzz. We're going to be building community together to the extent that each one of us does that. So, yes, I come in as an independent agent. Yes, I'm trying to get whatever I get out of this thing. But yes, I am in the business of working to build a community for myself and for you and for all of us and all of poetry. We all know the people that just show up at poetry readings, never set up a poetry reading. We all know people who create literary magazines and invite people to participate in it, and people who will only send to literary magazines. We all know people that are only takers. And we all know people who are community people. They're serving other people while they serve themselves. What's it, all boats, when the tide, what's it?
High tides.
Yeah, when tide goes up, all boats rise, right? So that's what we need to do, is to think in those terms. Is to think as community agents, building a community. And once again, it should be on something real. Not because your name's George and my name's George. It's just going to be part of it. So that's community association. And the last thing I'll say about that is, it may sound like I'm schooled in this, and it's probably because I went to graduate school to be a community change agent in North Carolina, so I still got some of them way back here in the back of my head. There's how to do this. And I used it in the Peace Corps, and I stopped doing it. But the idea is units of practice. There's different levels at which we practice community building. You can't do it with family, probably not, but we have different places, different levels and units in which we have the opportunity to do that. So if your unit of practice is St. Petersburg, Florida, and you're doing something good in St. Petersburg, Florida, in association with the Jack Kerouac House there, you also have the opportunity, because of the reality of an association of a constellation of Jack Kerouac locations around the country, in San Francisco, in Denver, in Northport, in Lowell. We were just talking about this. To act as at that unit of practice as well. Invite people from Lowell down to check out what you go up to Lowell and tell them about Jack's house in St. Petersburg. It's a natural. We can't have an opportunity. It's not always going to work, but these are opportunities to seek. Why? Because of the synergy. Because otherwise, you'll get your 40 people, right? And you'll get some good people in. You'll get your 30 people at Spaceball. But, if you get some people down from LA, because they know about, they've seen you, they've seen you in Connecticut, and I come from New York, and I'm at the Spaceball because I've seen, because you came out to Long Island for the James's local gems extravaganza. These are all opportunities for us that happen because of the networking possibilities. So I'm really going to be a big advocate for that. And if that's a point for a keynote speech, I've done it. I got my point. So that 4:27. That's perfect time. Any questions about any of that before I touch on a couple of other things, and then I'm going to read some poems? Any questions about community or any of those at all? Yes? All right. All right, good. AI. AI, I'm scared of it too. I don't want to get taken over by a robot. And I've got this, this dystopian dream that the robot is going to be like Hal on in 2001: A Space Odyssey, which says no, instead, and has better judgment than the human beings, and the robots actually take over. I have that fear as well. But I have to tell you that technology is what we're talking about. AI is a kind of technology, like a computer, like the internet, like a typewriter, like a pen. Technologies, sometimes they're threatening. So I don't know if there's anybody here that writes by hand with a pen on a piece of paper. Yes? Anybody else? Yes?
A little bit.
A little bit? I can't. I never could. It was like, you start to write a poem and you kind of like, you got all these things going around because you don't want that anymore, you want this. And before you know it, you got a page of spaghetti. And then you got to turn it over and you got to rewrite it, right? And then and by the time your brain is like 20 miles ahead of where you are while you're rewriting that previous page, my brain could not function that way. When I hit the typewriter, it wasn't even good enough, like a manual typewriter, but a keyboard plus cut and paste. Man, I've been flying since then. I must tell you a personal anecdote. When I was at the historian for the Northport Historical Society, put on a show about Jack Kerouac's time in Northport. And this was in the year 2000, and I got from David Amram, I got in touch with the Kerouac estate up in Lowell, Massachusetts, to borrow a couple of items to put on display in the Northport Historical Society. A typewriter, a sleeping bag, a backpack, or something like that, a couple of things like that. So I flew up to Logan Airport and rented a car and drove to Lowell to meet with John Sampas, who's the executor of Kerouac's estate. And I didn't even know what he was going to give me, but I sat down with him. We had a cup of coffee. We were talking and stuff like that. He goes upstairs in the attic and he pulls down those couple of things that I just mentioned. The typewriter is a Hermes 3000 typewriter. You know what a manual typewriter feels like? Anybody ever used one recently? You do? Yeah. It's Kerouac was a halfback in a football team. He had strong hands, right? And there was and there was talked about, what's his name, Truman Capote saying, that's not writing, that's typing, about Jack Kerouac, because he wrote so fast. He wrote so fast, and he had this whole mechanism to work on his teletype paper so he could continually, have the stream of writing going on. And so he had this reputation for being a fast writer. I borrowed the typewriter on a Friday. I had to set it up in the Historical Society on Monday. And I had Jack Kerouac's typewriter in my house, right, for 3 days. Of course, the ribbon was no good. It was like a 50-year-old ribbon, so I couldn't. But I found a ribbon for Hermes 3000 typewriter, and I stuck it in there, and I had Jack Kerouac's typewriter, and I was going to write a poem on Jack Kerouac's typewriter. So, I started to do it, and I wrote a poem. I don't know if I have it with me, so I'm not going to read it, but I started typing on this typewriter. This is how we all type. We all type 250 words a minute, like this, and then spell check fixes it, right? And there's no more like whiteout or anything like that. But you must, if you're somebody, you raise your hand so you know, this is how you can only go a certain speed on this thing. It's not even a question of how strong your fingers are or how fast you can do it accurately. You know what it is? It's like these keys, and when you press it, it goes up, and it hits the paper, and it comes back down. So you can go. You do any faster than this, and they go like that. They're just like they keep people in the church, coming out of the seat. And here's the church listen. It jams. You can only write 30 words a minute. I don't know how secretaries ever did 100 words a minute with these manual typewriters, but they did. So, point is, you have to find the speed that your brain works at. And if you're going to write Bach prosody, which is all about, spontaneously falling forward into language, how did you do it effectively? It's so much easier for us. Can you imagine if Shakespeare had a computer? Or can you imagine if you had to go get a goose quill, a goose feather, and cut it and stick it into ink, and how slow your writing would be then? Technology helps us. Do you remember a book called a thesaurus? It was harder to learn than Chinese, than an abacus. It was impossible. Something was cross-referenced. If you wanted something on page 285, it referred you to page 456. It was like an interminably long process to use a thesaurus. Now, you just go to Google, whatever the word is, synonym. There's 150 thesaurus. There's 10 different thesauruses. Words for, synonyms for that word. You open it up, you look at one that's kind of approximately kind of close to the one that you think, oh yeah, this is a good one. Or maybe now I can, when I write about this thing, I can start to use more than one obvious adjective and find some adjective or noun that's got sonically got a word that works for me, or it's nuanced in a way that's suggested in a way that I hadn't even thought about. Wow, when I think of it this way, there's more of an ominous tone to this particular adjective than the one I had in mind. So you have this ability to be much more precise and expressive and rich in your use of language with a thesaurus. And it's so much easier now because of the computer. Well, not only is it easier, but it's also good writing. And at the same time, you might say like, well, that's kind of AI, isn't it? A thesaurus, in a way, it's kind of no, not exactly. Why is it not AI? It's a tool. It offers you a range of possibilities, but if you're still making the decision with a thesaurus, with a dictionary, with Wikipedia, you're still the one in charge. It's got nothing to do with making the decision. I could equally say, no, you shouldn't be allowed to use a thesaurus. So a pure writer should be able to you know, to use the vocabulary at their command. You're cheating if you use a thesaurus. You know? Give me your language. Just because you could look it up doesn't make it yours. Well, maybe yes, maybe no. We all learn things by looking things up over the course of our lives, and the more you look them up, the more, if you're actively engaged in incorporating what you look up into, then you're expanding your palette, you know, so that you've got more colors on your palette to use next time around. So if you handle AI correctly, you can use AI as a tool. Dude, what do you got? No, that's bullshit. Right? Dude, what do you got? Oh, you know what? I can kind of, yeah, okay, I can kind of see what that, you know, and then you're the one making the decision. The scary thing, of course, is, you know, that it's going to replace the decision-making process. And I don't trust that any more than I trust a car that drives itself. Not just because, you know, the thing could decide to drive into a pond, into a river, because it has a map in its head that's not accurate. You know, it's based on before they put a reservoir there, and now there's a reservoir there, so it drives you into a reservoir. That could happen. Not because it could be hacked, but AI could be hacked. You know, if we're going to ban TikTok because it's owned by a Chinese company, and somehow by getting people to wiggle on rails, you're gonna create propaganda in our brains from the Chinese communists. Well, yeah, they could steal, you know, they could infiltrate AI too, and give us literature that's really communist propaganda. You know, but yeah, that's paranoia. So I want to be very careful about this, not to become paranoid about the opportunities that AI gives us. I would much rather have a surgeon guided by AI than its shaky alcoholic hand. So I'll leave that at that with you. Now, the other thing I just want to mention very quickly is the collaborations with music. And it's 4:38, so I'm going to make this very brief. You know, because of YouTube and other things, we have an opportunity now to do a lot with music. And people were talking about popular music, and you know, your group was talking about Taylor Swift. You know, Taylor Swift. You know, all they know about is Taylor Swift. And it's not literature, but I created a blog called Radio Poetique. And I've personally found over 400 popular songs that are from poetry. They're either music that's in support of poetry, music where the poetry is used either spoken or turned into something that has some musical component to it, into a lyric, that uses partial, you know, bits of poems, that refers to poets or poetry, or one way or another is poetry based. And you could easily make a study of how famous poets and famous poems have infiltrated into our popular cultural lives because of this collaboration. I'll give you a couple of examples. Mercy Street, you know, that's the lead singer from Genesis. It's about Anne Sexton. And his daughter and his father are out in the boat, right? Layla, yeah, this is a 15th century Persian epic that the character Layla came from. So those are references to people like that. Sheryl Crow. All I want to do is have some fun till the sun comes up on the Santa Monica Boulevard, right? It's popular, it's a hugely popular song, right? Well, it turns out that they were in the studio together, you know, she and her for people, and they needed another song, and they didn't have any material, so the guitarist went down the corner to a bookstore and he found this old chapbook by some dude, and he's looking through the chapbook and he finds these lyrics, these words in a poem. He brings it back and he says, let's do this. And that's how that song came about. The lyrics of that song came straight from a poem. So I could go through innumerable examples of that. Some that would really surprise you. I think would surprise you because they surprised me anyway. There's a Christmas song. The bells of Christmas. I hear the bells of Christmas time, right? And it's like, it's a carpenter song, but it's also done, very beautifully by any number of people, for a long time. Longfellow. It's a Longfellow poem. Longfellow wrote during the Civil War to talk about the two sides of people before the Civil War being able to enjoy Christmas, and now they're at odds with each other. And just like on either side of the camp, it's a Christmas truce, and they hear the bells of Christmas, and now they're going to find a moment of transcendence over the conflict that they're in because of Christmas. Who knew? These songs come to us. This Ogden Nash wrote lyrics to "Say Low, da 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 da." That's an Ogden Nash song. You could go down and listen. I invite you to check out Radio Poetry. I've got a list of the top 125 out of these 400, and it's just some fantastic material. A lot from the Irish, a lot that American writers stole from the French. Like, what's Bobby Darin's song?
Jack the Knight.
Yeah, that's Bertolt Brecht, right?
Mac the Knight.
Yeah, Mac the Knight. Mac the Knight, Bertolt Brecht and Jacques Prévert, two of them, French and German, that American popular music has stolen a lot of material from. This one is Beyond the Sea. Where Beyond the Sea, that's Bobby Darin's theme song. It's a Jacques Prévert song in French. The autumn leaves down my window, right? That one. That's another French song. But these are examples of how poetry really does and has collaborated. We have the opportunity to do that in an unprecedented way now. I just did an album with a group in Greece. They turned my lyrics and my poems into lyrics, and they produced an album. I'm working with an operatic soprano in Italy on these interpretive songs that they're producing over there, and the musician is in Naples, she's in Milan, I'm in New York, and we can make this thing happen from all over different parts of the world in a way that we never could before. So, enough about that. What, I got 20 minutes? I got 20 minutes to read to you. All right. Any questions about that? Any counterpoints to that? Yeah.
I think there are two songs. One was Richard Corey.
Yes. I put a bullet in his head.
And then the other one was Forming an Underground Wall.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, of course, there's songs that are by popular artists which are spoken. They're spoken. Like Lou Reed does a number of them. So does Patti Smith. The Piss Factory is a great poem. It's a great poem. It's a rant, but it's a great poem. Even you mentioned Billy Joel, which I hate Billy Joel because I was in the wrong band. He was in that band, and I was in this band, and they were much better than us. But we didn't start the fire. That's a spoken word song, right? So, and then the people who write lyrics, like not Taylor Swift, perhaps, they're not stupid lyrics, but Lana Del Rey, excellent, really excellent. And these are heirs to Joni Mitchell, yes. And heirs to Joni Mitchell and to Leonard Cohen. Leonard Cohen, by the way, did Alexandria, which is a Cavafy. He did a poem by Lorca, Dance, the last waltz in Vienna, or something like that. So I mean, there's a whole body of work there. Enough. On watch Louis Armstrong. It's the second part of the 20th century. Snow's fallen, a man in Rome who's, playing on a trumpet the song he's composed. It's a good day, It's a good day. A very good day in the kingdom of jazz, and miracles happen. Today, this man's been released from Joliet prison. He's left Chicago, he's changed his name, he's left the country, and he's come to Rome, Italy. In prison, he prayed for this. It's a miracle, and it was big as snow. And now he's standing in front of the Basilica Santa Maria Maggiore, and he's performing the song in the falling snow. And the song is the sound of his godfather in Sabine Parish, Louisiana. The morning they caught him hiding in the pines. And the song is one part desire and two parts the baying of Texas bloodhounds. And the song is two parts dying and one part Louisiana shrimp trawler, and the traffic and the pedestrians and the snow in the air and the jazz and a young woman's on a bicycle. She's just riding past. A woman wearing a black overcoat and black gloves and a tight-fitting red scarf, and beneath her coat a white blouse with pearl buttons. A woman who studied philosophy at the university, and furthermore, she knows a man who knew a man who one time met Gregorio Corso, but didn't know it was Gregory Corso at the time. A woman who was just paddling along happily and laughing at the snow and hears a song over the sound of the traffic. A young woman who has stopped and gotten off her bicycle and has walked over to listen to the man with a trumpet standing in the snow in front of the Basilica Santa Maria Maggiore. And in the middle of the crowd, over the rush of traffic and the people in the city and all that snow and all that noise, she speaks something out loud. Saccio, she says. Saccio. Omaggio a Saccio. And she starts to dance. As jazz writing, that's not necessarily about jazz, although it happens to be in this case, but the idea of jazz, from anybody who teases the chord, there's a bass line of a melody, and you take off until you start spinning around, going tangentially, going circles, around the thing, just touching back on it enough so you know that the person's got a point and they're going to make it, but you don't know where the story's going. It keeps going around in circles and tangents and stuff like that. And being able to do that on a saxophone and being able to do that with words is the same thing, because you have to know where to land, so you land at the right point. The most famous song that Charlie Parker had was Epistrophe, which was his version of How High the Moon. How high da 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 standard tune. Da da da. Here's him turning that thing inside out. Da 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 da. Right? He somehow turns the melody inside out, and he's working around it. So this is what jazz writing, according to Clark Coolidge, says, is to know where to jump off, know how to tease the chord, so you don't get too far from it, and know where to land. Jackson Pollock also did this with his painting. You think he's just doing abstract expressions and just heroic paint? No. You can see out in the Hamptons, they did a film of him in Springs where he's got like a plexiglass or whatever the material was of the time. And they're filming him from above him, and he's like hurling things, looks like he's doing, they don't know what. But all of a sudden he stops and he goes like, no, that's all right. And he has to start over, because he sees the core of what it is he's working around. There's a very famous, very long mural by Jackson Pollock, which just looks like a Jackson Pollock, but it turns out you can see where the words Peggy Guggenheim is in it. And it's just like melted out. So to melt out the core, whatever that art process is, when you melt the core out, so all you're left with is the stuff around it. This is teasing the core. It works in visual arts, it works in music, and it works in composition of words as well. I live inside a chalk-drawn circle. The line I draw around myself. I'm the monkey wrench. I'm the fly in the ointment. I'm a conductor on a trolley that never knew a track. A chemist concocting illegal rhymes. I hand out citations to everybody. I teach the snow to fall. I teach the stones beneath the surface of the green, green sea to sing. I cast out evil when evil shows its face. I live inside the chalk-drawn circle. I'm incurious to sinners. I'm indifferent to soldiers. I'm a magical thinker who wanders among the ruins, wearing bedroom slippers and taking notes. A child at the most serious play, dangerous, free. I live inside this chalk circle and tell tales concerning societies and men. A canary that never knew a cage, a baker of a kind of bread that never felt a knife. I am a maker of roof tiles that never knew the falling rain. And I sing my song and whole gardens appear where the bombs once fell. I heard giraffe on tenement rooftops. I wave my hand and paintings appear on hospital walls. I'm a secret mixologist of dreams. I live in a pottery jar and wait to be filled. I live in a glass pitcher and wait to be emptied. Left alone in my prison, I take my time and study the darkness. An earthquake that never made a table shake. A crust of bread that never swept itself under the carpet. A lie never told. A love never betrayed. A vice that never happened. A lighter of imaginary dynamite. And I puncture fear, and I outlaw love, and I outlast anything which lives outside my chalk-drawn circle. That's trying to bring some surrealism, you know. The idea being to take oppositions, you know, not just do a straight line, and pile it on more and more, you know, the absolute, in one direction. But if you think Cuba is in a cubist way and say, like, from this angle it's this, from this angle maybe seemingly opposite or contrasting. But it's when you get the composite of all those different angles pulled together into a collage that it becomes a complex, a more whole product. They are burning your books. They're burning your books in paradise again. But they cannot burn your heart, or the living language which ripens your mouth. They cannot burn the defiance which flowers in your lungs. Like soil, like mist, like every amalgamation of sound known to man. They cannot burn your wings. They cannot burn your wings, soaring with the offbeat candor of spring. Your words mad, your words wild, delicious, your humanity subversive to the state. They're burning your books again in Oklahoma, Texas, Florida, Independence, Missouri, Arkansas. But you play poker with the hypocrites and you always win. You peel back the veil of corruption. You ridicule their schemes. You laugh at their police sergeants and whip crackers. You who speak every language. You, enemies of rumor and innuendo. You, belly dancing Titicaca's. Your breath extraterrestrial, you, enormous, your poetry unleashing the deep lake of prophecy. They're burning your books again. In a land ruled by boardrooms and barracudas, in cities, farms, pastures that cry for mercy, in the enormous high beams drenching the great American plains. It's 152 miles till the next fascist takeover. And you are everywhere, leaping mountains, charging waterfalls, weaving barefoot with your backpack and freedom-fighting lumberjack stride with your arms like a compass pointing every which way, like all the rivers of the world, and your heartbeat is fresh-baked bread. They're burning your books again. But your volcanic voice cannot be stilled. You're a vision to the people besides. Spectacled, wise, longing, lounging beside the Pacific. You rise sacred and foolish and necessary from the ashes. You're dangerous. You are woke. You're revolutionary. You are in the heads of the people even when they do not know it. They may torture your body. They may burn your pages. They may rob you of your voice and break your hands and blind your eyes, but they cannot silence you. Your roots go way too deep. Your poems go shouting unhinged in market squares and alleyways. Oh, indigenous hearts, you are invincible. Oh, sharp daggers of verse, plunged into the eye of the imperial guard. Sing. The old order's falling. You are freedom from tyranny. Towering, massive poet, a continent wide. Beautiful thief, I will raise my voice up with you against the fire. Beautiful thief, I will lift my voice with you against the endless suffering of the people, against the armaments of fascist pride, against the conquistadors' corrosive hand. Thank you. Thank you very much. We've got 3 minutes. Anybody got any comment? Yes?
Have you done AI? Have you gone on there and done chat or done any of that stuff?
No, you know what I used to do for a while, but it got stupid. It didn't really work out so well. It's kind of like word jumbles. You know, you just give me a random word generator, snakes and something, word generator, and you can ask for a phrase or a sentence or a whole paragraph. So I used to do it just looking for prompts, looking for just 2 or 3 words that jumped out and go like, yeah, that's my starting point. Because I'm not a person who writes about something. You know, you hand me color a book and there's Mickey Mouse, and you say, okay, color in Mickey Mouse. That's not how I work. I look for a spark of language and rhythm and sound, which sends me in some exploratory direction of discovery, right? And then it starts to build and build. And as these words and phrases start to flow out in a brainstorming way, they begin to make some sort of sense, and some kind of sense emerges from it. So I have a destination. I'm exploring, and by the end of my writing process, I know what I've written about. So, I forgot what your question was.
The question was, had you done any AI?
Yeah. So that's why I did it. You know, like, well, you know, there's such thing as found poems, right? Found poetry. You know, if I do a poem and one of those poems I've got something people in bathroom slippers. Well, Jack Kerouac walked around Northport in bedroom slippers. You know, there's little catchphrases like that maybe they come out of pop culture, they come out of commercials or whatever. If that's illusion. You know, ALLUSION. As long as you don't go too far with it, just start stealing material. But you use material. And if you do it sufficiently, you've got to put on the top after so-and-so, or put something like that, or put at the bottom with an asterisk. Oh yeah, this is Jack Kerouac slippers or something like that. Short of that, this is our business. There's our business to have as rich a palette that we have possibly to work from. So it gets triggered, starts to move, and I'm like this, and I'm like this, and I've got this, and I've got this, and you know, I've got that, I've got everything possible that's in my head or available on the internet to supplement, to grow the poem and grow the concept. And AI, I think, is a good way to do that. I just haven't done it yet. Yeah, Larry.
I've used AI for a specific purpose, writing press releases, biographies, does a wonderful job. As long as you proofread it before it goes out. But it's useful.
You were never a travel agent. I liked, you know, the industries that are gone. I liked having a travel agent. You know, you call the person up and they set it up for you and they're responsible for it, and if anything screws up. You know, coming down here, I got to pioneer, you know, I didn't check in 24 hours in advance, right, on the airplane. You're supposed to do that. They send you an email. I didn't know that. You know, I go flight Delta to America, it doesn't happen. But in Frontier Airlines, you know, you're supposed to check in 24 hours in advance. Otherwise, you get to the gate and they go like, you're on standby. You know, we're overbooked on that flight. You're here, and you didn't check in. So, I mean, a travel agent would never let that happen. AI would let that happen. I believe that, you know, because of that I trust human beings to watch that kind of thing for me. But press releases, I think, you know, I think you could program bias into AI. If you could make it, you know, free of bias, you could also make it biased. You know, I'm sure Elon Musk is trying to figure out how to do that right now. How to create an AI that's biased in the direction that he likes. So I'm not so sure. Yes, somebody, anybody. Yes.
What year did you write the last poem about him burning the books?
That's this year. Yeah, I think it's.
It's the again.
Commercial. It's in this book right here, which is for sale downstairs. So yeah, I write a couple times a week. Post all my poems on Facebook, so you can find that on Facebook. But you know, this book is 2023. This is my first one in 2024. I got another one coming out in Savannah-Barva in Somerville, Mass. And I've completed a manuscript for 2025, which I haven't shopped yet. So I stayed at least 2-3 manuscripts ahead of what's coming out now. You know, if you do that too, then you know what a disconnect it can be. Because you know, like, oh, here's I'm having a book party for this. And you go like, huh, I wrote that like a long time ago. You know, it was a year ago, but it's like stale.
But it was very timely.
Okay. Chris, thank you very much once again. Enjoy the rest of the experience here.